In this video, I will cover some basic ways to effectively format section headers in a resume. The goal with formatting is to ensure strong contrast between the section headers and the rest of the resume to help guide the resume reader's eyes. With strong contrast, a reader can quickly pick out your name, section headers, experiences, and skills without any guesswork. So let's get into it. Here I have a resume that has pretty strong formatting within experiences. You can see there's bold, there's plain style, there's bullets, we've even got some right alignment. But the section headers need quite a lot of work. We want section headers to stand out against the rest of the content, but that's not happening right now. So what changes can we make to have stronger section headers? Well, one simple change is to just make the section headers larger. To increase the font size of a section header incrementally, select the desired section header and go up to this area of the toolbar here. The icon that features a capital A with an arrow pointing up will increase the font size, while the icon with a smaller capital A with an arrow pointing down will decrease the font size. But how much larger should the section headers be? If it's only a point or two, the section headers aren't going to stand out. However, we also don't want the section headers to be too large or they're just going to be distracting. One tactic I utilize when designing my own resume is to work in what I call principle of 4. To give you an idea of what I mean, you'll start with your smallest element on the page. In this case, that's going to be our body content, which consists of literally anything on the page that isn't your name at the top or a section header. This resume's body content is set to 12 points. Well, by the principle of 4, if our content is 12 points, our section headers will be 4 points larger, so they're going to be 16 points in size. So let's go ahead and make all the section headers 16 points and see what that looks like. Those are looking better, but we can definitely up the contrast a bit more. Right now, the only difference between the section headers and the first line of content in each section is just the size. They're the same font face, and both elements are bold and left aligned. However, it's best to build contrast through as many means as possible. If we made the size of the font larger, why not make the letters larger too by capitalizing each letter? To help expedite this process, select your section header and click this button right here, right next to the font increase and decrease buttons. We'll select uppercase, and look at that. Now we have some nice contrast building between the section header and the first line of content. I'll just go ahead and change all of these section headers to uppercase formatting. That's looking pretty good. We've built contrast in two ways now. Overall size, 16 points for the section headers versus 12 points for body content, and form, all caps for section headers versus only the first letter of each word capitalized in our body content. At a minimum, you want to build contrast in at least two distinct ways. However, I think we can work with even more contrast and really make those section headers pop. One thing you may notice is that most of the resume is left aligned except for the info at the top and the dates and locations on the right side. So one way to build more contrast with the section headers is to center align all of them. Now we've built contrast in three ways, and that's looking pretty good now. But can we go further? You bet. How about an actual element to separate the section header from the first line of content? Something like a line right under the section header that extends from margin to margin. To place the line in Word, use the border tool at the top of the page. First, we'll click on our section header. You can see our typing cursor right there. Now we'll go to the border tool, and here's where you can decide on how you want the line to go. A bottom border places the line right underneath the section header, like this. Pretty nice. But what if you wanted the line above the section header? I'll just undo the current line with Ctrl Z, and this time I'll select top border. See? But I think in this case, I like the bottom border best. So I'll hit Ctrl Z on my computer to undo the top border, and then I'll select bottom border. If you're going to use the same border in each section header, which you absolutely should, you only now need to click on the icon to insert the line for your other section headers, just like this. The best part of using Word to format lines in this way is that if you have to adjust the margins in a later version of your resume, say you're going to go from 1-inch margins to half-inch margins, that line is going to auto-adjust with your margins, so there's no more guessing involved. Now, your resume doesn't necessarily need to look like what I have here, but just keep in mind, you want to build contrast in as many ways as possible that works with your resume. At the very least, aim for 2 different ways to build contrast, whether that's increasing the size with the principle of 4, adjusting the form with all caps, changing the alignment, or including a line either underneath or above the section header. One quick note, the Career Management Center does advise against the use of color in a business resume. We've received feedback from our employer recruiters, and most really only want to see black ink in a business resume. They've said that even a little bit of color can be quite distracting, so it's best to build contrast in other ways beyond color in your resume. Hopefully, you now know several ways to do this. If you have any questions regarding resume formatting, feel free to stop by the CMC or schedule a resume review appointment with a professional documents reviewer. Thanks for watching.